Hello and welcome to News Across Nigeria today. I'm Olumide Macaulay. Coming up on the program, it's official as President Muhammadu Buhari signs 2018 budget into law. Meanwhile, the Katsina state government begins the process of creating boundary lines along herders' routes to prevent encroachment on farms. Plus, we'll take a look at the spate of accidents on Lagos roads and what the authorities are doing about it. Welcome again to News Across Nigeria, and thanks for joining us. President Muhammadu Buhari has signed the 2018 appropriation bill into law. But the president has a few worries about the document, particularly the fact that the National Assembly had wasted 7 months in transmitting the budget to him for signing. He's also observed that the budget for critical infrastructure was reduced and the expenditure for the National Assembly was increased instead. He says the National Assembly made cuts amounting to 347 billion naira in the allocation to 4,700 projects submitted to them for consideration and introduced 6,403 projects of their own amounting to 578 billion naira.
Notwithstanding the delay this year, I am determined to continue to work with the National Assembly towards improving the budgeting process and restoring our country to the January-December fiscal cycle. I note with pleasure that the National Assembly is working on the enactment of an organic budget law so as to improve the efficiency and the nation's budgetary process. I am concerned about some of the changes that the National Assembly has made to the budget proposals that I presented. The logic behind the constitutional direction that budgets should be proposed by the executive is that it is the executive that knows and defines the policies and projects. Unfortunately, that has not been given much regard in what has been sent to me. The National Assembly made cuts amounting to 347 billion naira in the allocation to 4,700 projects submitted to them for consideration and introduced 6,403 projects of their own amounting to 578 billion naira. Many of the projects cut are critical and may be difficult, if not impossible, to implement. With the reduced allocation, some of the new projects inserted by the National Assembly have not been properly conceptualized, designed, and costed, and will therefore be difficult to execute. Another area of concern is the increase by the National Assembly of the provisions for statutory transfers by an aggregate of 73.96 billion naira. Most of these increases are for recurrent expenditure at a time we are trying to keep down the cost of governance. An example of this increase is the budget of the National Assembly itself, which has increased by 14.5 billion naira, from 125 billion naira to 139.5 billion naira, without any discussion with the executive.
President Muhammadu Buhari of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let's get a deeper angle to this now. We have an economic analyst, the managing director of Kari Assets, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, joining us live. Thank you for being with us on News Across Nigeria.
My pleasure.
Now the deed is done. The president doesn't look too happy. He's worried about those adjustments made by the National Assembly, particularly those cuts that he just pointed out, funding critical infrastructure. How significant is this that has gotten him so concerned?
Well, like the president said, some of the proposed budgetary items that National Assembly cut, the amount allotted to them are critical infrastructure. And some of them may actually be projects that are already in midstream in terms of implementation. And if you stop such projects, you're actually going to end up with a lot of abandoned projects in the country. I'm actually worried. I didn't know that the level of misunderstanding or disagreement in terms of the budget composition was that deep. For you to have a situation where the National Assembly froze, in effect, or reduced the amount that we allotted to some critical projects and introduced more than 6,000 new projects into the budgeting system, we need to look back at our process of budgeting. And I think that's, for me, that's where the leadership, that I challenge the leadership in the National Assembly and the presidency to come to elevate themselves to the level of being altruistic as it relates to the national issues. Let me explain to you what I mean by this. In the first place, in other countries, in other presidential democracies, the National Assembly members that are influential will bring projects that they want to be included in the budget to the executive. The executive review those budgets, get a valuation for them, get a quantity analysis of those projects, and determine if they will fit into the national interest. And where they do, they will be including the budget. It is not for National Assembly members to begin to insert projects into the budget. I thought we've gone beyond that. If you can't remember.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, let's move on to something else. Half the year is gone already. It's obvious that security is being given priority. What other critical areas do you think need immediate attention?
Infrastructure. Of course, we know that can be overstated. If you look at the budget, the original provision the president had in the budget was 555 billion. The National Assembly increased by 106 billion. Obviously, that might be part of what they have included for themselves. But we need to invest heavily in infrastructure, transport infrastructure, most importantly, power infrastructure. The government still has control over the transmission grid. They need to put a lot more money into the transmission grid so that we can wheel out the power that is being generated if the power is actually being generated.
Okay. The horse has already left the stable as far as that is concerned because the budget has already been signed, the money already allocated. Are you concerned about how it will be implemented and how the budget will be spent in those areas that are of concern?
Yes, I am. Two factors. The president has just said that some of the items included in the budget is difficult to implement. They didn't go through the process. Two, that some projects that have been originally included by the president have had their allocations cut down and therefore cannot be conclusively implemented. But that factor that I have concerned to me is value for money. If budgetary provisions are made without going to what we may call fair assessment of its economic value, its relevance, and then the cost of implementing that relative to the opportunity cost of the funds that we're going to put in there, then you might not get full value for money.
Okay.
So those two factors are of concern to me.
Okay, let's take a look quickly at the budget deficits of the states and at the federal government level, how much they can deliver in terms of those needs such as infrastructure and social investment for those states who've signed their budgets.
Well, if you look at, for instance, the budget for the federal government budget of 9.12 trillion, of that 3.5712 trillion is purely recorded treasury. It will have minimal impact on building the capital assets we need. But there are also provisions for the social intervention scheme, like the school feeding that the government has. That, for me, is the palliative. To the extent that you can provide one good meal or two good meals for school children. But the fundamental issue is building the income level of the family, which is the center of homes, which then come up. So we need to implement budget in such a way that will enhance the capacity of the economy to generate employment, so that not only at the federal level, but at the state level.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson Chukwu, thank you so much for speaking with us, for your insights on this issue concerning the budget. Mr. Johnson Chukwu is the Managing Director of Carry Assets and Economic Analyst. You're watching news across Nigeria. Coming up, Katsina State begins the process of creating boundary lines along the herders' routes to prevent encroachment on farms. Please stay with us.